John Deere just did something nobody in the truck industry saw coming, and the shockwaves are spreading fast. The same company that dominates American farms has now stepped straight into the pickup market, and this move is already being called one of the most disruptive launches in decades. Dealers are stunned, legacy truck brands are suddenly nervous, and buyers who were priced out of the market are paying very close attention. This is not a concept, not a rumor, and not a future promise. John Deere just revealed what could become the cheapest pickup ever, and it directly challenges everything the truck market has become. For years, pickup prices have climbed out of control. What used to be working vehicles turned into luxury status symbols, loaded with screens, subscriptions, and price tags pushing past $40,000, $50,000, even $60,000. Contractors, farmers, and small business owners were left with fewer real options. John Deere saw that gap, and instead of talking about it, they exploited it. Their new pickup is not trying to impress with chrome or massive touch screens. It is designed to work, survive abuse, and stay affordable. And that single decision is why this reveal is sending panic through the industry. What makes this truck so dangerous to competitors is the philosophy behind it. John Deere didn't design it like a car company. They designed it like farm equipment. Every panel, every component, every mechanical choice is focused on durability, repairability, and long service life. This truck is meant to be used hard every day, not babied in a suburban driveway. That mindset alone puts it in direct conflict with modern pickups that rely on complex electronics and expensive repairs to drive profits long after the sale. The pricing is where things get explosive. Early numbers suggest this pickup undercuts entry-level trucks by a massive margin. We are talking about a price point that feels more like early 2000s truck pricing, not 2026. That instantly rewrites the value equation. A buyer can now choose between an overcomplicated, overpriced truck or a brutally simple workhorse built by a company trusted by farmers for generations. That is why analysts are saying this isn't just a new truck, it's a market correction. Legacy automakers are especially vulnerable because they abandoned the low-cost segment years ago. They chased higher margins, premium trims, and monthly payments that stretch for a decade. John Deere is doing the opposite. They are targeting first-time buyers, fleet operators, rural workers, and anyone who just wants a truck that does the job without draining their bank account. That strategy threatens sales volumes across multiple brands, not just one or two. Another reason this launch matters is trust. John Deere's reputation in rural America is unmatched. Farmers rely on Deere machines during harvest, when failure is not an option. That trust transfers naturally to a pickup designed with the same philosophy. Buyers believe this truck will last because John Deere's business has always been built on machines that work in the worst conditions imaginable. That credibility is something new truck startups simply do not have. This move also exposes how far the truck market has drifted from its roots. Pickups were never meant to be luxury products. They were tools. John Deere's entry is forcing the industry to confront that reality. If buyers respond the way early interest suggests, automakers will be pressured to rethink pricing, features, and even their entire approach to truck design. Some brands may not be able to adapt fast enough. What's even more interesting is how this pickup fits into a bigger strategy. John Deere isn't chasing urban buyers or lifestyle marketing. They are building an ecosystem vehicle, something that integrates naturally into farms, work sites, and rural supply chains. That gives them a long-term advantage because this truck isn't just a product, it's an extension of how their customers already work and live. And this is where the real danger begins, because if John Deere proves that a cheap, simple, reliable pickup can succeed in today's market, it destroys the narrative that high prices are unavoidable. It proves that automakers chose profits over accessibility. Once that illusion is gone, buyers will start asking very uncomfortable questions, and the entire truck market will be forced to respond in ways we have not seen in years. That pressure is already starting to build behind the scenes. Executives know that once buyers see a real, affordable alternative, patience runs out fast. Truck shoppers are tired of being told high prices are the new normal. John Deere's pickup challenges that idea head on, and it does so with a brand that has never depended on flashy marketing or hype. The product itself does the talking, and that is exactly what makes it so disruptive. Another key detail that's turning heads is how simple this truck really is. No massive curved displays, no subscription-locked features, no unnecessary software updates that break basic functions. Controls are physical, systems are straightforward, and maintenance is designed to be done without specialized tools or expensive dealership visits. For anyone who actually works their truck every day, that simplicity is not a downgrade, it is a massive upgrade. The powertrain choices reinforce that message. Instead of chasing maximum horsepower numbers for bragging rights, John Deere focused on torque, efficiency, and long-term reliability. This truck is built to pull, haul, and idle for hours without complaint. That matters far more on a job site or a farm than shaving half a second off a 0 to 60 time. It's a reminder of what trucks were always meant to be. Manufacturing strategy plays a huge role here too. John Deere already operates massive production and supply networks across North America. They know how to control costs, source durable materials, and scale quickly when demand rises. That gives them an advantage many automakers lost when they outsourced and overcomplicated their supply chains. It also explains how they can offer such aggressive pricing without cutting corners where it matters most. Dealers are watching this unfold with mixed emotions. On one hand, there is clear excitement about a product that could bring foot traffic back to showrooms. On the other hand, there is fear. A low-cost, high-demand truck changes inventory dynamics completely. It reduces the ability to push high-margin add-ons and forces a more honest transaction. That shift alone could reshape how trucks are sold in the coming years. What's happening right now is bigger than one model. It's a signal. John Deere is testing whether the market still values function over flash. Early reaction suggests the answer is yes. Pre-release interest from farmers, contractors, and small business owners is already outpacing expectations, and that momentum is something the industry cannot ignore. And as this pickup starts gaining real-world visibility, parked at work sites instead of car meets, the contrast will become impossible to miss. One truck exists to impress, the other exists to work. That difference is going to define the next phase of the truck market, especially as economic pressure forces buyers to rethink every major purchase they make. Because once people realize they can buy a brand new pickup without signing their financial future away, the entire conversation around trucks changes, and the consequences of that realization are only just beginning to unfold. Those consequences extend far beyond individual buyers. Fleet managers are now running the numbers, and the math is uncomfortable for traditional automakers. A cheaper upfront cost, lower maintenance complexity, and longer service life can completely rewrite total cost of ownership calculations. For companies running dozens or hundreds of trucks, even a small shift in cost efficiency translates into massive savings. John Deere's pickup is suddenly not just an alternative, but a financial weapon. This is especially threatening at a time when many truck brands are already struggling with excess inventory. Dealer lots are crowded with expensive models that fewer buyers can realistically afford. Incentives are rising, discounts are getting deeper, and yet sales remain under pressure. Into that fragile environment comes a pickup that doesn't need rebates to look attractive. Its value is obvious the moment the price is revealed, and that puts legacy brands in a defensive position immediately. There is also a cultural element at play here. John Deere represents work ethic, durability, and American industrial identity. For many buyers, owning a Deere product is a statement about priorities. It says function matters more than image. When that mindset enters the pickup market, it clashes directly with the lifestyle branding that has dominated truck advertising for years. That clash is going to force a reckoning. Regulators and policymakers are paying attention as well. Affordable utility vehicles support small businesses, agriculture, and rural economies. If John Deere's truck gains traction, it strengthens the argument that the industry can still produce accessible, practical vehicles without massive government intervention. That narrative shift could influence future regulations, incentives, and even manufacturing policy. Then there's the ripple effect on innovation. Automakers often justify high prices by pointing to advanced technology, but John Deere's approach exposes a different kind of innovation. It is innovation through restraint, choosing what not to include, designing systems that last instead of impress. If buyers reward that approach, it could trigger a broader redesign of future vehicles across multiple segments, not just trucks. What's happening now feels less like a product launch and more like a stress test for the entire market. How much complexity do buyers really want? How much are they willing to pay? And how quickly will loyalty shift when a trusted outsider supplier offers a better deal? These questions are suddenly impossible to ignore, and as word spreads, something even more disruptive begins to happen. Buyers stop waiting, they delay purchases, they hold onto older trucks a little longer, watching to see how the industry responds. That pause alone can slow sales, tighten margins, and accelerate changes behind closed doors at the highest levels of the automotive world. Because once a single company proves that the cheapest pickup doesn't have to feel cheap, the pressure on every other truck maker becomes relentless, and the next moves they make will determine who survives this shift and who gets left behind. Inside automaker boardrooms, this is being viewed as a worst-case scenario. Cutting prices is not easy when entire business models are built around high-margin trims, financing, and long-term service revenue. John Deere's pickup undermines all three at once. It is cheaper to buy, simpler to maintain, and designed to last without constant dealer intervention. That combination attacks the profit structure the industry has relied on for more than a decade. Suppliers are feeling the tension too. A shift towards simpler vehicles changes demand for high-end electronics, complex infotainment systems, and subscription-based features. If John Deere's approach gains momentum, suppliers tied to premium components could see demand soften, while those focused on durable mechanical parts gain relevance again. That kind of supply chain realignment does not happen quietly. There is also growing curiosity about how far John Deere plans to take this. Today it's a basic pickup. Tomorrow it could be multiple configurations, cab options, or specialized work variants built for agriculture, construction, and municipal fleets. John Deere already understands niche work requirements better than most automakers, and that knowledge gives them room to expand without losing focus. Another overlooked factor is repair culture. Modern trucks often require proprietary software, locked diagnostics, and dealership-only repairs. John Deere has long faced criticism over right to repair, but in recent years has been forced to adapt. This pickup reflects that shift, the ability for owners and independent shops to maintain and repair the vehicle more easily increases its appeal, especially in rural areas where dealer access is limited. As more details leak and early units begin testing in real-world conditions, the conversation keeps intensifying. Online forums, worksite chatter, and dealership showrooms are buzzing with the same question. Why hasn't anyone done this sooner? That question alone is damaging because it suggests the industry chose complexity and profit over customer needs. The timing could not be worse for traditional truck makers. Economic uncertainty, high interest rates, and cautious consumers were already putting pressure on sales. John Deere's entry amplifies all of it. Buyers now have a reason to hesitate, compare, and demand more value. And hesitation is the enemy of volume-driven industries. And the longer this pickup remains the most rational option in the room, the harder it becomes for flashy alternatives to justify themselves. Every overpriced feature, every unnecessary screen, every added subscription starts to feel like excess rather than progress. This is how markets crack open, not with loud collapses at first, but with quiet shifts in perception. Once enough buyers start viewing trucks as tools again instead of luxury statements, the foundation of the modern truck market begins to weaken, and the next phase of this disruption is already lining up behind it. That next phase is where things become truly unpredictable. Once buyers reset their expectations, it becomes almost impossible to push them back to old pricing logic. Even if automakers respond with temporary discounts or stripped down trims, the damage is already done. The benchmark has moved. John Deere has effectively anchored the market to a new definition of value, and every other truck will now be compared against it. Marketing departments are scrambling to adjust their messaging. For years, the narrative was technology, luxury, and lifestyle. Now the conversation is drifting back toward reliability, affordability, and real-world usefulness. That shift forces brands to speak to an audience they have not prioritized in a long time, and rebuilding credibility with that group is not easy. There is also a generational aspect to this disruption. Younger buyers entering the workforce are far more cost-conscious and far less interested in status-driven purchases. They want utility without debt. John Deere's pickup fits that mindset perfectly. If it becomes the default choice for this generation, brand loyalty could shift for decades, not just a single model cycle. International markets are watching closely as well. Affordable, durable pickups have enormous demand outside the US, especially in regions where infrastructure is is rough and maintenance resources are limited. If John Deere decides to expand globally, this truck could undercut competitors worldwide, turning a domestic disruption into a global one almost overnight. What makes this moment especially dangerous for the industry is that it doesn't rely on hype. There is no futuristic promise or speculative technology. The value proposition is immediate and easy to understand. Lower price, fewer problems, longer life. That clarity resonates far more strongly than any marketing campaign. And as real owners begin to share their experiences, the narrative will shift again, not from speculation to reality. When trucks start racking up miles, hauling loads, surviving harsh conditions, and doing exactly what they were built to do, the conversation will move from surprise to validation. At that point, resistance from the industry becomes even harder to sustain. Every major shift starts with a single product that exposes a flaw everyone else learned to ignore. John Deere's pickup is doing exactly that. It's exposing how disconnected modern trucks have become from the people who actually need them. And as that realization spreads, the industry will be forced to make choices it has been avoiding for years. Choices that will reshape pricing, design, and priorities in ways that are only beginning to surface. Those choices will not be painless. Scaling back complexity means confronting sunk costs in software platforms, infotainment ecosystems, and premium trim strategies that took years to build. It means admitting that customers may not have asked for many of the features they were forced to pay for. John Deere's pickup is effectively holding up a mirror to the industry, and the reflection is uncomfortable. We are already seeing subtle signs of course correction, quiet announcements about simplified trims, early leaks about base models returning with fewer bundled options, increased emphasis on durability and marketing language. These are not coincidences. They are early reactions to a disruption that automakers would rather downplay than confront directly. Another important dimension is financing. High-priced trucks depend heavily on long-term loans and complex financing structures to remain sellable. A significantly cheaper pickup reduces reliance on debt. Buyers can pay them off faster or avoid long-term financing altogether. That undermines a revenue stream that extends far beyond the vehicle itself, and financial institutions are paying attention. The used truck market is also exposed. Expensive new trucks push up used prices, but when a cheap new alternative exists, used values come under pressure. That affects trade-ins, residual values, and lease structures across the market. John Deere's entry does not just affect new truck sales, it destabilizes the entire pricing ladder from top to bottom. There is growing speculation about how competitors might respond if sales momentum continues. Will they revive truly bare-bones trucks? Will they create separate sub-brands to protect their premium image? Or will they double down on luxury and abandon the working-class buyer entirely? None of those options are easy, and all of them carry risk. Meanwhile, John Deere continues to benefit from its outsider position. It is not constrained by automotive tradition or expectations. It does not need to defend past decisions. It can move forward with a clean narrative focused entirely on utility and value. That freedom is something legacy automakers no longer have. As anticipation builds and real-world availability draws closer, the conversation is shifting from disbelief to inevitability. People are no longer asking if this truck will change the market. They are asking how fast. And once that question becomes dominant, the pace of change tends to accelerate in ways that even the biggest players struggle to control. Because at the center of all this disruption is a simple truth the industry tried to forget, and once buyers rediscover it, there is no going back. That truth is already reshaping expectations in places the public does not immediately see. Engineering teams are being told to rethink priorities. Cost reduction is no longer a quiet internal goal, but a visible competitive necessity. When a non-traditional manufacturer proves that affordability and durability can coexist, excuses lose credibility fast. There is also a psychological shift happening among buyers. For years, many people accepted high prices because they believed there was no alternative. John Deere's pickup breaks that assumption. Once buyers realize choice exists, they become more demanding. They scrutinize features, question markups, and push back against upsells. That change in behavior alone can force structural reform across the market. Fleet sales amplify this effect even further. Fleets operate on logic, not emotion. If a truck performs the same core tasks for less money and less downtime, brand loyalty becomes irrelevant. Large fleet orders can swing production production planning, supplier contracts, and regional employment. A single competitive model can redirect billions in spending over time. The media narrative is also evolving. What began as a surprising headline is turning into a deeper discussion about industry priorities. Analysts are comparing today's trucks to those built decades ago and asking why prices diverge so dramatically from wages and productivity. John Deere's entry gives that debate a concrete reference point, not just theory. Another layer of disruption comes from resale behavior. A simple, durable truck with fewer electronic dependencies is easier to keep on the road for decades. That extends usable life and reduces replacement cycles. For manufacturers dependent on frequent turnover, that is a serious long-term threat. Behind the scenes, there is quiet concern about brand perception. If John Deere becomes associated with honesty and practicality, while traditional automakers become associated with excess and overpricing, reversing that perception will take years. Brand trust once lost is not easily regained, and as more buyers delay purchases, waiting to see how this plays out, the pressure compounds. Slower sales lead to higher incentives. Higher incentives erode margins. Eroded margins limit innovation. That cycle feeds itself, and it is exactly the kind of downward spiral the industry has worked hard to avoid. This is why John Deere's pickup is not just a product story, it is a stress test of the entire system, and as the results continue to come in, the responses from competitors will reveal who truly understands the market they serve and who has been operating on assumptions that no longer hold. So as this unfolds, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. John Deere did not just introduce a new pickup, they challenged the rules that have defined the truck market for years. By proving that a truck can be affordable, durable, and purpose-built without unnecessary excess, they exposed how far the industry drifted from its core customers. The real question now is not whether this pickup will sell, it is how the rest of the industry will respond. Will automakers bring prices back to reality, simplify their designs, and rebuild trust with buyers? Or will they cling to a model that fewer people can afford and even fewer truly want? Because once buyers see that the cheapest pickup does not have to mean cheap quality, expectations change permanently. And from this point forward, every truck launched, every price announced, and every promise made will be judged against what John Deere just put on the table.